Welcome to my channel Auto IYT.
Hi, my name is Mia. I'm 19, and I'm currently living with my mom and my stepfather Mark. You might think that's a typical situation, but let me tell you, things have gotten complicated in ways I never expected. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon, and I was lying on my bed, but there was a sense of restlessness in me that I couldn't shake off. And I was feeling so lonely as I broke up with my boyfriend last week, and I was feeling so low and full of desires, so I decided to play with myself to feel relaxed. My room was a sanctuary filled with paintings I had created, soft music playing in the background, and the warm afternoon light filtering through the curtains. I felt comfortable here. My mom was out running errands, leaving Mark and me home alone. He was a great stepfather, always supportive and kind. But lately, there was an intensity in his gaze that made my heart race every time I caught him looking at me. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself it was just my imagination, but it was him in reality watching me through window. Mark opened the door, stepping into my room and caught me playing. I took a deep breath and quickly put my phone down. "What are you doing, Mia?" My heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know how to explain him, so I tell him all truth about breakup. He was so understanding. He said nothing and about to leave. Then I hold his hand and kiss him forcefully as I was full of desires. I couldn't help but notice how he looked in his casual t-shirt and jeans, his hair slightly tousled. He pushed me back and said, "Are you out of your mind? What are you doing, Mia? Someone will see us." "What about your mom?" I feel ashamed, and he get back to his room. Next day we were on table. We poured our coffees, and he sat across from me at the table. We started chatting about everything and nothing, our conversation flowing effortlessly. I could see the passion in his eyes as he spoke, and I found myself hanging on every word he said. There was a comfort in our connection, yet an undercurrent of tension that made my heart race. At one point, I jokingly mentioned my art project, and he leaned closer, intrigued. "You know, I'd love to see some of your work," he said, his voice low and inviting. I felt a shiver run down my spine, and I nodded, eager to show him my paintings. After finishing our coffee, I led him back to my room, showing him my favorite pieces. Mark's eyes lit up as he examined my work, offering thoughtful critiques and encouragement. I felt proud and validated in a way I hadn't before. As we stood there discussing colors and techniques, Mark reached out and lightly touched my arm, his fingers lingering for a moment longer than necessary. I looked up at him, and our eyes locked. Time seemed to stop as I felt the air between us thickening with unspoken feelings. "Mia," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper, "you have an incredible talent. I've always admired how passionate you are about your art." His gaze was intense, and I felt my heart racing. "Thank you, Mark," I replied, my voice shaky. "It means a lot coming from you." I could sense that he wanted to say more, and I held my breath, anticipation swirling within me. In that moment, everything changed. The tension that had been building between us couldn't be ignored any longer. I took a step closer, drawn to him like a magnet. "Mark," I began, but the words caught in my throat. He took a step forward, closing the distance between us. "Mia, he started, but I cut him off, closing my eyes and leaning in. Our lips met in a soft, tentative kiss, sending shockwaves of warmth through my body. I felt alive, the world around us fading away as our connection deepened. The kiss was sweet and lingering, and when we finally pulled away, both of us breathless, I realized that nothing would ever be the same again. Days turned into weeks, and our relationship blossomed into something beautiful and complicated. We navigated our feelings carefully, stealing moments together amidst our daily routines. Each shared glance, every accidental touch felt electric, and each moment spent together was filled with warmth. One afternoon, we found ourselves alone again, the house quiet and still. Mark was in the living room, flipping through channels, while I sat curled up on the couch, sketching ideas for my next painting. I could feel his gaze on me, and it sent butterflies fluttering in my stomach. "What are you working on?" he asked, glancing over. I turned my sketchpad towards him, revealing a half-finished piece. "Just a little something inspired by the sunset yesterday," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He leaned closer, his shoulder brushing against mine, and I could smell his cologne, a comforting musky scent that made my heart race. "It's beautiful," he said, his voice low and sincere. He moved closer, and our bodies were nearly touching now. "You have such a gift, Mia." In that moment, the air between us crackled with tension. I turned my head to look at him, and he was already staring at me. I could feel the heat radiating from him, and without thinking, I leaned in closer. Our lips met again, this time with a desperate urgency. The kiss deepened, my hands finding their way to his hair as I pulled him closer. He responded instantly, wrapping his arms around my waist and drawing me into him. The world outside faded away as we lost ourselves in the moment, our bodies pressing together, exploring the newfound intimacy between us. I felt his hands wander down my back, his fingers trailing along my spine, igniting a fire within me. My breath hitched as I pulled away slightly, looking into his eyes, filled with a mix of desire and tenderness. "Mia," he whispered, his voice heavy with emotion. "We need to be careful." I nodded, the reality of our situation crashing over me like a wave. "I know, but it feels so right," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. The tension was palpable, and I knew we were crossing lines that shouldn't be crossed. But in that moment, I didn't care. Our kisses became more passionate, our hands exploring each other's bodies. I could feel his heart racing against mine as we lost ourselves in the heat of the moment. Mark's hands slid under my shirt, his fingers brushing against my skin, igniting every nerve in my body. "Mia," he murmured against my lips, his breath hot and intoxicating. "Are you sure about this?" I nodded, my heart racing. "I am. I want this." The words came out in a breathy gasp, and in that instant, everything felt perfect. The kiss resumed, more urgent this time, as I wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him closer. I could feel the warmth radiating from his body, enveloping me in a cocoon of comfort and desire. As he deepened the kiss, I melted against him, losing myself in the sensation of his lips on mine. We pulled away for a moment, both of us breathing heavily, our foreheads resting against each other. "This is dangerous," he whispered, his eyes searching mine. "I know, but it feels right," I replied, my voice shaky but filled with conviction. "We can take our time," he suggested, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered against my skin, sending shivers down my spine. "I want this to be special for you." I smiled at his words, feeling a rush of warmth at his consideration. "It already is special," I admitted, leaning in for another kiss. The kisses became more exploratory, more passionate, as we lost ourselves in each other. My fingers tangled in his hair as I pressed against him, my body responding instinctively to his touch. Mark's hands traveled down my sides, his fingers teasingly brushing against my hips, and I felt my breath hitch in anticipation. Every kiss was filled with longing, a deep connection that went beyond words. I could feel the heat building between us, a yearning that made my heart race. Mark pulled me closer, and I could feel the warmth of his body against mine, the electricity crackling in the air around us. As our kisses grew more fervent, I felt a sense of freedom wash over me. In that moment, nothing else mattered, just us, lost in our world of passion and desire. Hours seemed to slip away unnoticed, and eventually we pulled away, both breathless and a bit disoriented. "Wow," I whispered, my heart racing. "Yeah, wow," he echoed, his expression a mix of wonder and concern. We both knew we had crossed a line, yet it felt so right. I took a deep breath, the reality of our situation sinking in. "What do we do now?" I asked, searching his gaze. Mark looked pensive for a moment before answering. "We take it one step at a time. I don't want to rush anything, but I don't want to deny what we feel either." I nodded, a smile creeping onto my face. "I can live with that." As the sun began to set outside, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, we knew our lives had changed forever. We would navigate this complicated relationship together, each moment filled with uncertainty yet undeniable passion. Over the next few weeks, our secret moments became more frequent and intense. With every stolen kiss and touch, we discovered new depths to our feelings. We started to create our own little world, where nothing else mattered except for us. One afternoon, while my mom was out, I decided to take a walk in the nearby woods, hoping to clear my mind. The sun filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the path as I strolled deeper into the forest. I was lost in thought when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see Mark approaching, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Hey, I was hoping to find you here," he said, catching up to me. I felt a rush of excitement at his unexpected appearance. "What are you doing here?" I asked, a smile breaking across my face. "Thought I'd take a break from work and see if you wanted some company," he replied, his eyes sparkling with mischief. We walked side by side, the silence comfortable, our shoulders brushing against each other as we moved. I could feel the tension building between us, a familiar warmth that made my heart race. After a while, we found a secluded spot near a small stream, the sound of water cascading over rocks creating a peaceful backdrop. The atmosphere was perfect, and I felt a flutter of anticipation as I sat on a large rock, inviting Mark to join me. As he settled beside me, the warmth of his body radiated against mine. "This is nice," he said, glancing around. I nodded, my heart pounding as I turned to face him. "It is," I replied softly, our eyes locking once more. There was something electric in the air, and without thinking, I leaned in, capturing his lips with mine. The kiss was soft at first, but quickly deepened as we lost ourselves in the moment. Mark's hands found their way to my waist, pulling me closer as I melted against him. I could feel the warmth of his body enveloping me, igniting a fire within me. I tangled my fingers in his hair, deepening the kiss as our hearts raced in unison. Eventually we pulled away, both breathless and slightly dazed. "We really shouldn't be doing this out here," I murmured. My cheeks flushed. He chuckled softly, brushing his thumb across my cheek. "I know, but it feels so right. Besides, it's just us here." I bit my lip, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. "What if someone sees us? Then we'll just have to be careful," he replied, his expression turning serious. "But Mia, I can't stop thinking about you. I want to be with you, no matter where we are." His words sent a thrill through me, and I nodded, feeling emboldened by his honesty. "I want that too," I admitted, a smile breaking across my face. We spent the afternoon in the woods, sharing stories and laughter, and every now and then, stealing kisses that made my heart race. It felt so liberating, so intoxicating, to be lost in this world we had created. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow around us, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. This was where I belonged, with him. But the reality of our situation loomed over us like a shadow, a reminder of the complexities we were entangled in. After that day, we found more ways to be together, sneaking out when my mom was busy or distracted. One evening, we ended up on the roof of our house, the cool breeze brushing against our skin as we sat side by side, gazing up at the stars. "It's beautiful up here," I said softly, my heart swelling at the sight of the twinkling lights above. Mark looked over at me, his expression serious. "Not as beautiful as you," he replied, and I felt my cheeks heat up at his compliment. "Stop it," I laughed, playfully shoving his shoulder. "No, I mean it," he insisted, turning to face me fully. "You light up my world, Mia. You make me feel alive in ways I never thought possible." His words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, and I leaned closer, resting my head against his shoulder. "I feel the same way, Mark. Being with you is everything I've ever wanted." He turned to me, his eyes dark with emotion, and I felt a rush of warmth at the intensity of his gaze. "I know this is complicated, but I can't help how I feel. I want to be with you, and I'm willing to figure this out together." I nodded, a sense of determination bubbling within me. "We'll make it work, I promise." As the stars twinkled above us, we shared another kiss, soft and tender, the world around us fading away. Our lips moved together in perfect harmony, and I could feel the heat rising between us once more. But as our kisses grew more passionate, reality knocked on our door again. We pulled away breathless, both of us aware of the weight of our actions. "What happens if my mom finds out?" I whispered, a hint of fear creeping into my voice. Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, let's just enjoy what we have. I nodded, though the worry lingered in my heart. As the days turned into weeks, we found ourselves entangled deeper in our secret relationship. Our kisses grew more fervent, our touches more daring as we pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable. One afternoon, while my mom was out, Mark and I found ourselves in the living room, the atmosphere charged with unspoken desire. I was curled up on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when he walked in, a playful grin on his face. "What are you up to?" he asked, leaning against the doorway. I looked up, my heart racing at the sight of him. "Just looking for some art inspiration," I replied, trying to sound nonchalant. He walked over, sitting down beside me. "Mind if I join?" I shook my head, feeling the familiar warmth wash over me as he leaned in closer. We exchanged a few playful comments about my artwork, but I could feel the tension building between us again. As our laughter faded, Mark's gaze turned serious, and I felt the weight of his eyes on me. "Mia," he said softly, "can I show you something?" I nodded, my heart racing as he leaned in closer, brushing his lips against mine. The kiss was slow and deliberate, sending a thrill of electricity coursing through my veins. I melted against him, our lips moving together in perfect harmony. He pulled away slightly, his forehead resting against mine. "I've been thinking, maybe we should explore this further," he said, his voice low and husky. My breath hitched at his words, and I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, searching for the right words. I want to take things to the next level. I want to be more than just secret kisses and stolen moments." I felt my heart race at the implication, a mix of thrill and apprehension flooding through me. "You mean?" He nodded, his gaze unwavering. "I do. I want to be close to you in every way possible, but I want to make sure you're comfortable too." I took a deep breath, considering his words. I felt drawn to him in ways I never thought possible, and the thought of being closer to him ignited a fire within me. "I want that too," I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Mark's eyes lit up with excitement, and he leaned in for another kiss, this one filled with a deep hunger and longing. I responded eagerly, feeling the warmth of his body against mine as we got lost in each other once more. As the kiss deepened, I felt a rush of anticipation and desire. Mark's hands roamed my back, his fingers tracing gentle patterns against my skin, sending shivers of pleasure coursing through me. I leaned into him, eager for more. As our kisses grew more passionate, time seemed to stand still as we explored the depths of our connection. Lost in our own world of intimacy, our bodies pressed together, and every touch ignited a fire within me. I could feel the heat radiating from him, enveloping me in a cocoon of comfort and desire. Eventually we pulled away, both breathless and flushed. "Wow," I murmured, my heart racing with excitement. "Yeah, wow," he echoed, a playful smile on his lips. As we sat there, reality began to creep back in, reminding us of the boundaries we were pushing. I felt a mix of exhilaration and fear, knowing that our secret couldn't last forever. "What do we do if my mom finds out?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. "We'll figure it out. For now, let's just enjoy the moment." I nodded, but a lingering worry gnawed at me. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow in the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that our secret would eventually come to light. Over the next few weeks, our relationship deepened, filled with overwhelming love and connection. Each moment we shared only strengthened our bond, but the tension of keeping our relationship hidden lingered in the back of my mind. One evening, as we lay together on the couch, wrapped in each other's warmth, I felt the urge to address the elephant in the room. I turned to Mark, his face illuminated by the soft glow of the lamp beside us. "Mark," I began softly, "we need to talk about us, about what we're doing." He looked at me, his expression serious yet understanding. "I know, it's complicated, but I wouldn't change a thing about us. You mean too much to me." I smiled at his words, but the worry I felt crept back in. "What happens when my mom finds out? What if this all ends badly?" Mark took my hand, squeezing it gently. "I don't want to hide anymore. We can't let fear dictate our happiness. If she finds out, We'll deal with it together. I'll be by your side, no matter what. His reassurance brought me a sense of comfort, and I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. You really mean that? Of course, he replied, his eyes locking onto mine. I love you, Mia. I want to be with you, and I'm willing to fight for us. Those words filled my heart with hope and strength. In that moment, I realized that the love we had was worth any risk. I leaned in, capturing his lips with mine, pouring all my emotions into the kiss. We pulled away, our foreheads resting against each other, both of us lost in the warmth of our connection. So, what do we do next? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. We tell her, he said with determination, but let's make sure we're ready. We'll approach her together when the time is right. I nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Our relationship had grown beyond mere secrecy. It was real, and I wanted to embrace it fully. Days turned into weeks, and we continued to navigate our relationship, finding small pockets of time to be together, sharing passionate kisses and tender touches that left us both breathless. We often retreated to the woods or spent evenings on the roof, savoring each moment as we prepared for the eventual conversation with my mom. Then one evening, we sat at the dinner table, a palpable tension hanging in the air. My mom was distracted, scrolling through her phone, and I glanced at Mark, who gave me a reassuring nod. Mom, can we talk about something important? I asked, my voice shaking slightly. She looked up, her brows furrowing in concern. Sure, sweetheart, what's on your mind? I took a deep breath, my heart racing. It's about Mark and me, our relationship. Her expression shifted, surprise evident on her face. What do you mean? Mark reached for my hand, intertwining our fingers, giving me strength. We've been seeing each other, Mom, and it's more than just friends. For a moment, silence enveloped the room. My heart pounded in my chest as I waited for her reaction. Finally, she set her phone down and took a deep breath. Wow, I didn't expect this, she said, her voice steady. But I can see how happy you both are. I want you to be happy, no matter what that looks like. Relief washed over me, and I squeezed Mark's hand tightly. So, you're okay with this? She smiled gently, nodding. As long as you both are careful and communicate openly, I support you. Tears filled my eyes at her acceptance, and Mark's expression mirrored my relief. Thank you, Mom, I whispered, feeling the weight lift off my shoulders. With that conversation, a new chapter in our lives began. No longer shrouded in secrecy, we embraced our relationship openly. Our love blossomed as we navigated the complexities together, knowing we had each other's backs. As weeks passed, we grew closer, our love deepening as we shared moments filled with laughter, warmth, and passion. Each stolen kiss became a promise, each tender touch a testament to the bond we had formed. One beautiful spring evening, we found ourselves back in the woods, the sun setting in a cascade of colors that mirrored our emotions. We sat by the stream, laughter ringing through the trees as we shared stories. Our hearts full. Mark turned to me, his gaze serious yet filled with warmth. I can't imagine my life without you, Mia. You've changed everything for me. I smiled, leaning in to press a soft kiss to his lips. You've changed everything for me too. I feel alive with you. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we sat in comfortable silence, our fingers entwined, hearts beating in sync. The world felt perfect, and I knew that whatever came our way, we would face it together. In that moment, I understood that love in all its forms was worth fighting for. We had forged our path, and no matter the challenges, I felt confident we would find our way through, together.